But one of the ways that we try to bridge this gap is through the apprenticeship model. And so if you're not familiar with apprenticeships, that people, when they think of apprenticeships, they typically think of trades like, I know, welder's apprentice or electrician apprentices, but apprenticeships can be applied to so many different industries. And we're specifically helping to build them into the IT industry. And so what an apprenticeship is apprenticeship is a full-time position. It's not an internship, but it is developed to help get on-the-job training coupled with some actual education, some training in a classroom setting so that you are learning while you're working on the job and you're preparing to enter into this role. So we do a lot here at ACDS, and specifically in talent acquisition, we cover many bases. And so Michael's going to tell you a little bit about that.
All right, thank you, Katie. So as Katie mentioned, she and I are both with the talent acquisition team. And basically what we do is we have partnerships all throughout the state with various companies looking to find IT professionals and those looking to get their first foot in the door with IT. And so what we do is we interview and really help coach and be advocates for candidates for those IT roles. And so we'll partner with you as well as partnering with the companies and really try to do our best to help put you in the best light possible with these companies. But kind of the main theme of today's webinar is that really the ball's in your court. So this job search is, it's what you make of it. So how much effort you put in and how much work you do for it is going to really help determine where you end up and how quick that process goes. But to introduce ourselves, you met Katie, and then my name is Michael. I'm also a recruiter here with ACDS, been with the organization since August and love what we do. Love being able to not only interview candidates, but give honest, positive feedback and help them out, which a lot of companies for various reasons aren't able to do that, but we're a nonprofit with some flexibility. So we love the coaching aspect and going and doing mock interviews with candidates before we have them interview with our company partners. So Katie, did you want to say anything else about you?
I've been with ACDS a little over a year now, and again, I think Michael hit the nail on the head. The mission is really my favorite part, getting to work with candidates and not only help you find, if you're new to IT, where that area is that you will excel in, but really just help prepare you for the full process. The job search process is really intimidating, and especially right now, it's hard. It's harder than normal. So anything we can do to kind of share tips and tricks to the trade, we're happy to do so. And so I'm going to kind of go over some of the topics that we're going to introduce today. Michael is going to talk to you about building your brand. What does that mean? A lot of times when you search top job tricks, it'll come up with, what does your online persona look like? How can people find you and connect with you? And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about my favorite topic, resume tips. As a recruiter, I am a resume snob, and I love helping fix resumes. We're going to talk about a powerful platform, LinkedIn. Michael is the king of LinkedIn, so he's going to tell you how he makes it all work. We're going to go over cover letters. Cover letters are a beast, and so it's really something that can hurt you if you don't do it in the right way, and so I want to help share some tricks for that. We're going to talk about different job boards, specifically some tricks and how to work those in your favor. We're going to talk about just some miscellaneous tips that we have encountered throughout this process that are specific to IT. We're going to cover networking and how to utilize that in your favor, how not to go across that line, but how to be impactful when you're networking. And then following up. Following up is a big part of the steps of the job process. So what is appropriate in those means? So I will turn it over to Michael.
Okay, so let's get started into the meat of things. So we're talking building your brand. So what does that even mean? And as Katie kind of alluded to, it's really your foundation, the cornerstone of your job search. And so, much like a company and how they have a brand and they've marketed themselves, you also have a brand. You have something that you're known for, and you have an expertise in something that really maybe not everybody has an expertise in. And so the key is just finding what that is. Um, and really, to be considered by an expert by others, you really only have to be about 10% further along the path than they are. So if you're just learning something, but you're really passionate about it, and you've taken some courses or done some practice work, and you're really soaking up everything like a sponge, you're probably ahead of the game than a lot of people. And so to them, you may be actually considered an expert. Um, and so something that you might think is easy might actually be challenging for others. And so the key is to really just finding what it is that you're really into and passionate about, and figuring out if others can really benefit from that as well. And so I like to call it your superpower. You can also call it your niche as well. But really, you want to focus on building your brand off of whatever that is. And so from there, where is a good place to be seen? Where are good places to be seen is kind of the next question. And so, as Katie alluded to, LinkedIn is one of the best free places to be seen and showcase your brand. A lot of companies use that, but a lot of people use LinkedIn as well. We'll talk more and more about that, but really LinkedIn is underutilized. There's I forgot exactly how many millions. I want to say it's over 700 million users of LinkedIn, but less than 1% are actually utilizing LinkedIn to showcase their brand and really go places off of it. So it's very underutilized, and so it's a great avenue for you to showcase your brand and to let others see you. Especially if you're a job seeker, it's a perfect time to be on LinkedIn right now. But like I said, we'll talk more about that later. Another good way to be seen is to create your own webpage. And you don't even have to be that good at it. There's a great website called Wix, Wix.com. That's a great platform to create your own website. There are many others out there, but we're just sharing a few examples. But creating your own webpage helps to enhance that brand. It gives people a landing spot to come see more about you and more about your personality and what you do. Another thing you can do is write articles for Medium. Medium is an app or a website that you can use to write articles and share those. And if you sign up for I think the premium version, you can actually get paid for some of your articles, depending on how much visibility is on them and how many likes and applauses I think that you get. So Medium's a great place to showcase your brand and what you're all about. And then also, we work with a lot of engineers and developers. And so, a great way to showcase yourself, if that's the avenue of career that you want to pursue, or that's what you have been doing, GitHub. GitHub is, think of it as the Facebook or the LinkedIn for developers and engineers. It's another great avenue to showcase your projects and things that you're working on. And then finally, if you are proficient in something and feel like you could start doing that for work in a freelance capacity, Fiverr is a great place to do some freelance work. It's a nice platform to make a few easy bucks along the way. I've actually utilized Fiverr for some photo editing. So if you're good at that, jump on Fiverr, and you can make some easy bucks helping somebody out with photo editing. And if you're good at various things, Fiverr is a great place. Again, there are many others, but we just chose a few options there to go with some of our favorites. So Katie, I'll go ahead and let you take on the next page.
Perfect. So we're going to talk about resume tips. I think when it comes to resumes, they are the first thing that a recruiter or a hiring manager will see. When it comes to resumes, the most important tip, if there's one thing you take away, please make sure that you customize your resume to the job post you're applying for. Recruiters see so many different resumes a day, and it really gives you only a few seconds really to even catch somebody's attention. And so if I see an objective statement that is just very basic, as in looking or seeking to obtain a job in this field. I'm not excited by that. I think you've probably sent it to 20 different companies. I want to know exactly why you are the right fit for this role. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret of the trade. So a lot of hiring managers and companies use platforms called an applicant tracking system, or an ATS. And so this platform that all the resumes go through, and it really helps filter out your information. And so it relays the words on your resume to keywords in the job description. And so some of them might come up and say, oh, this resume is a 60% match, whereas a resume that uses the same keywords as the job description is an 85% match or a 90% match. And so tailoring your resume using those keywords, those verbiage, really helps to align your skills and abilities with what a job description is looking for. So always, always, always customize that resume. A typical rule of thumb is you want to keep your resume to one page. Now, there are instances where this rule could be broken, where there are exceptions, but generally you want to keep it on one page because recruiters, I'll be honest with you, we are not readers. We are talkers. We want to talk, talk, talk and get you on the phone as soon as possible. So we're just going to glance over that resume and look for those key items, those key buzzwords. We don't want to have to shift through 3 different pages of your work history and read all these sentences and paragraphs of what you've done at this company. Please use bullet points, narrow that down, use action verbs. Bloom's taxonomy is a great resource that you can use to look for the appropriate action words and verbs to describe what you've done. It really helps to kind of relay that information. Please, when you're creating your resume, I know people love to get caught up in the design of the resume. Don't spend time trying to make it fancy or make it stand out creatively. Spend time crafting those perfect statements. You want to keep it simple, black and white, classic. Please don't put a graphic on there. A lot of times graphics can mess up the ATS system. So no pictures. Sometimes people will put logos of their colleges, universities, logos of different trainings they've taken, different certifications, and it really just adds to the mess that it can make sometimes, not to mention messing with the upload format. When you're choosing your font, be consistent throughout. Don't try to choose 3 or 4 different fonts. Make sure they're easily readable. There's a couple listed that are typical ones, but I think my biggest pet peeve is seeing the typewriter font. I think it's a typical one that people would choose, but it's very hard to read when you look at it. So try not to make it messy and keep it clean with simple lines. A resume for IT positions typically will have a skill summary. And so if you haven't seen a skill summary on a resume before, there is an example on the presentation. But really, a skill summary is one of the first things I go to. And I'm looking for it because I want to see different programs, different languages, different abilities that you have. That way I can check off on my boxes. Yes, they have Python. Yes, they have Java. Yes, they have Photoshop. This really helps me to quickly see, quickly glance, and make sure you meet those capabilities. I think resumes are something that is very personal to people, but don't get too caught up in it. Have somebody proofread it, have somebody look over it. You never know what you're going to miss. Sometimes you can read something and you might miss a typo or a different error. I think when I get a resume that says I'm applying for a sales position at XYZ company, in that objective statement, I'm like, oh, well, they obviously didn't tailor and customize. So definitely have a second set of eyes. I want to show you just a couple examples of some resumes. So they have some they have some good things and some bad things on these resumes, and I'm going to point them out. So on this first one, the objective statement isn't necessarily my favorite because it is a little bit generic, but I do like that they did emphasize, I'm seeking an entry-level position. I know this is going to be a first-time job, but I would love to know a little bit more about the person in this objective statement. Education is great on there. I don't think it necessarily matters if it's the first thing on there or not. The technical skills and abilities is a great uh, variety of different things. Some things you think seem elementary, oh, I don't need to put that on there. Excel, Microsoft Excel is something that a lot of people don't realize that they have a lot of value in. There's people that don't know Excel, that don't know how to do pivot tables, that don't know how to do formulas and functions. So definitely put that on there. Some people may think, oh, everybody can do Excel. They can't. Put it on there, put PowerPoint on there, put Word on there. If you have technical writing experience, put that on there. And then you can see kind of where experience, it goes into a position that they had. Now, I will say if you're applying for your first IT role and you don't necessarily have work experience, but you've worked on a project, I don't have an example of a project on here, but you could easily title that relevant experience and you could put XYZ project for ABC class and put a description of what you did. Maybe you were the team lead in that project. Maybe you developed a website or created a game for yourself, and you can put a link to that game wherever it's at on the internet. Experience and job experience can really be what you want to make it. It is great to have some work history on there, but it doesn't necessarily have to come first. People get really caught up in the order of things on a resume. And I think it's important to always keep the skill section up to the top and then go from relevant experience down. If that relevant experience should be a project you've done on your own time, that should come before a job where you don't have as much experience. If you look on the other resume, you see that this person took some certificate and some online classes through Udemy and then through the University of Arkansas Global Campus. And so they got a certificate and they put up that on there. They took a Udemy course and took an intro to Spring Boot course. Those are very relevant. So any sort of professional development that you've done, put that on your resume. If you've got a certificate or a training certification in CompTIA Security Plus, you should definitely put that on your resume. Again, they have a skills section, they have work experience, and then you'll see down at the bottom that they put their LinkedIn and their GitHub. As Michael mentioned, GitHub, I call it LinkedIn for computer nerds, and I love it. It is just a great way to show off the work that you have done. And a lot of these hiring managers, one of the first things they'll say is what projects do they have to show? So having that GitHub or having a project experience on your resume really helps you stand out. And those hiring managers can easily ask about what they want to know. Michael, do you have any last minute tips, or Kristen or Ashley? I know we all have so many opinions about resumes and it's hard to all put it into one.
So really two things. One is just kind of following up on, you mentioned the applicant tracking system, or the ATS. And honestly, most companies are to where they have actual human eyes on that. So what I would recommend is, yes, I totally agree with Katie that you want to tailor your resume to match those keywords that are in the job description. The job description is going to tell you everything you need to know about how your resume should look, because it's going to tell you exactly what the company is looking for that role. So what I'd recommend in that is, do have it keyword heavy, but there are some websites, for example, like JobScan, where you can compare the job description and your resume. You don't want it to match 100%, because if you do that, it's going to create a red flag, and the recruiter is going to look at that and say they just kind of copied the job description or the keywords and just put that into the resume. So it's not going to seem authentic. So that's one take. And then second point I wanted to make is just kind of overall, think of your resume as as a movie trailer. So it's the trailer to your career, so to speak. And so, as Katie mentioned, you don't want to put everything in it, but you do want to hit all the highlights. So just like in a movie trailer, they lead with a hook, something to grab the viewer's attention. And so you want to keep watching that trailer for however long it takes, a minute, 2 minutes, but you want to grab their attention. So you can do that with that skills summary that Katie mentioned, doing that at the top, or a great summary statement at the top that explains who you are and why you're pursuing this career. So that's a great way to lead off. And then the rest of the content, you want to have all your highest achievements, put your best foot forward really on that resume. So anytime that you can quantify achievements in your career, so like for example, numbers. So if you're in a sales role, I helped company achieve this much more revenue in my tenure there, or depending on whatever role you were in, if you help the company do this and that and make them better, obviously put that in there in your experience section in your resume and even in your summary at the top. But really just, again, think of it as your movie trailer to your career. So that's all I had to add.
Well, we had a couple of great questions come in as well. Andrew asked, Katie, when you were mentioning, not to include graphics or images, would that same rule apply to design positions? Matthew jumped in with a great answer. Want to get your feedback too, Katie. He mentioned that maybe for a design role, you can include a link to your portfolio and then keep your resume clean, but still have all your design items. Any other thoughts or things to add as a recommendation there?
Yeah, I love the portfolio idea, and I think design it encompasses so much. It's not going to always be the creative, pretty work that is attuned to our personalities. It's going to be is something very readable, is something not going to come across messy and have 5 different fonts and the wrong kerning and the wrong underline and bolding and all that kind of typical design stuff. It's going to be like, is it cohesive? Would it match with the brand? And so I think keeping it in the same realm of no pictures, no, outrageous colors. I think, one color is fine. I love a pop of green on a resume because that's my favorite color. But just don't go overboard. I think if the portfolio typical design positions will have a link for a portfolio or will expect you to include that somewhere.
Awesome. And then the other good one that we've got is any tips on switching industries?
Yeah, I've done this before. And so it's all about transferable skills. And so I think that there's a lot of online resources that tell you, maybe using this word versus another word. I used to work in the education field. And so transitioning into recruiting, there's a lot of coaching and prep that goes along with that. And so I was able to transfer some of the work I did with students to what I do with candidates. And so highlighting those transferable skills. Work experience is always going to be valuable when you have that on there because recruiters want to know, what do you work with, or how do you work well in a team? How do you like best to be managed? How do you manage others? These are kind of universal things that will apply to any sort of industry. And so it's great to highlight those. But if you're learning a new skill, put on those learning opportunities that you've taken on, even if they've been, free online resources. Put those on there to show that you've done your research. You know what you're getting into. I think those will really help. Perfect. Well, let's move on to our next category. We're going to talk about LinkedIn tips. Michael's baby. This is what it is.
Yeah, so I don't know about king. That's quite a lofty word, but I appreciate the kudos. Yeah, so LinkedIn has been a tool that I've used and have seen a lot of success with. I honestly, I probably didn't utilize it to its fullest until really the spring of 2020, when I fully realized that, this is a great tool that I can use not only for job searching, but for networking and lots of good things. So I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. And the first step in LinkedIn is you want to create a great profile. So how do you go about doing that? And I just lost our screen there. I lost my screen. Hang on just a second. There we go. Got it back. All right. So to create a great profile, you want to first start with a great looking photo. And the photo, I recommend it being professional looking, although it doesn't have to be professional. So you don't have to go out and pay $100 or $200 to get a professional photo. Most of your modern smartphones have really good autofocus on those, so you can even do a selfie. But you want to make sure that the lighting is good. You want to make sure that it's a good head and shoulders view. If you are wanting to include a good background like a cityscape, it's okay to do you know, a more broader view of maybe head and then all the way a little bit lower as well. But ideally a good head and shoulders picture that looks professional, that's going to go a long way. There's a great website called Photo Feeler, and this is something I actually use. If you notice, so I'm not wearing glasses, I wear contacts, but if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I'm wearing glasses in that photo. And the reason I chose that photo is because it scored a lot higher on feedback on Photo Feeler than my non-glasses photo. So I decided to go with that. The Photo Feeler is a place where you can get unbiased feedback on your photos. So you would upload a photo and you know, wait 24 to 48 hours and you'll get plenty of feedback, and they'll rank them based on professionalism, on energy, on positive outlook, and rank them on different levels. And so it's a good idea to compare a couple of photos there and go with your best one. And so the one with glasses was my best one, so I went with that one. Next, I recommend having an appealing headline. And so I know LinkedIn has recently increased the amount of characters you can put in a headline. So I recommend utilizing that space, put as much as you can in there. If you're a job seeker, what I recommend is putting, as we talked about before, your superpowers or your niche, what you're good at, talk about that. And then also maybe a couple of the jobs that you're pursuing. Feel free to put that in there. But your headline is think of that as your resume summary statement. That's describing who you are and what you bring to the table. And that's going to be one of the first things. That and your photo are the first two things that are seen when people are perusing around on LinkedIn profiles. And then beyond that, you want to have a great about you section. So if you're familiar with LinkedIn, there's an area that is depending on whether you're on a computer or a phone or not, it's kind of just below your recent activity in your photo and your headline. It's the about you section. And that's a great way to let some of your personality be seen. So whereas your resume talks about what you've done and what you bring to the table, LinkedIn is kind of an extension of your resume. It's another great branding tool, one of the best branding tools. And it's a place where you can actually let some of your personality be seen there. So yes, you do want to talk about more of what you have accomplished and some of the skills that you bring to the table. That's always good to have in there. But make a good story. People hire people. And if you can tell a story with your history and with what you can bring to the table, they're going to resonate. It's going to resonate with hiring managers and recruiters, and they're going to see that and take notice. I've got kind of a good, a neat hook in my about you section, and I get lots of questions on that. And so it's a great conversation piece. And so recommend a really good about you section. And in your about you section, you can also mention some of your skills and some of your core competencies. And if you want to be contacted via email or phone number, you can also put that in your about you section as well. And then also LinkedIn has a specified skill section. I think they allow right now up to 50 skills that you can mention in there. So if you're pursuing a certain job title, what I recommend is going out on LinkedIn or even the company websites that you're looking at and looking at those job descriptions and looking for the skills that they're looking for. LinkedIn, a lot of times when companies post their jobs on LinkedIn, they'll mention some of the skills they're looking for. So what you can do is if you actually have those skills, then go ahead and plug those into your LinkedIn profile. And again, utilize all 50 spaces up if you've got what you feel, 50 skills or so. And then beyond that, list your work history. That's also something that LinkedIn allows you to do, your work experience. If you work for a company that's more well-known and has their logo on LinkedIn, if the company's actually on LinkedIn, go ahead and plug their logo in on there. That polishes up your LinkedIn a little better and makes it look more professional. And then also list your education and volunteer experience. And just like on a resume, you want to do everything in reverse chronological order. So if you were most recently at company A, go ahead and put that at the top. And then the company that you were at before that, put that next. Same with education. If you received a degree from one school, put the most recent school you had on there, and then older school below that. And then another thing that I learned early on is in my discovering of LinkedIn is that it's really, really helpful, almost crucial to engage with other thought leaders. So what I mean by thought leaders, these are people that are experts and leaders in the field that you're pursuing, and really just overall thought leaders, especially in career coaching. There's lots of good ones out there that are real genuine people that are really just out there to help people find jobs with their LinkedIn profiles. And so find who those people are. They're not hard to find. They're always posting content. And remember, I said that less than 1% of people on LinkedIn are actively engaged. So those career coaches are going to be some of the more actively engaged people on LinkedIn. So engage with those people. And what I recommend is when they create a post, find something that you liked about that post, and not only like it, but go ahead and comment on it, and not just say, don't just say that was that was great, or thanks for sharing. That's a little generic. Actually have a good, well thought out comment to put on there. In fact, the LinkedIn algorithm actually helps you when you leave a thoughtful comment. The reason I say that is because if you see a post that resonates with you and you leave a thoughtful comment, well, not only is the person who posted it, the original author, not only are they more prone to like your comment, but they're more prone to respond to it as well. And other people will see that, they'll like it, and they'll respond and engage with it. And so the LinkedIn algorithm is going to move your comment to the very top of this person's post. And if this is a thought leader that has 500,000 or even over 1 million followers, just think of how much branding awareness that is. Just think of how many people, recruiters, hiring managers, can see your thoughtful comment. And it really doesn't take much time to leave a thoughtful comment, a couple of minutes tops. So that's one great way to engage with thought leaders on LinkedIn. Another great way is to create your own content. So before we talked about how you are actually an expert in something, whether you know it or not. There's something that you can do just a little bit better than most people that you may not have even thought of. So what I recommend is writing to those things. And it may seem intimidating, and it may seem a little scary at first, but honestly, and I was there too. I was hesitant to post on LinkedIn. I was like, what if I get negative feedback? What if people don't like what I have to say? Honestly, that wasn't the case. When I started posting, I wasn't very good at it. Just like most things in life, when you first start off, you're not going to be that great at it. But as you keep practicing, keep going, you're going to get better. And so really didn't get a whole lot of negative feedback. In fact, very little, if any, at first. And so that kept, I got positive feedback and great comments, great engagements. And so that kept the snowball going. It kept me wanting to post more and more. And so I did. And honestly, since being a regular poster since the spring of 2020, I can probably count on one hand the times there's been negative feedback, and there's always the bad apple that comes out, but the majority, 99% of what you see is going to be positive engagement. So I highly encourage you to create your own content on LinkedIn, and consistency is king. If you have the means, I recommend posting at least 3 times a week. Again, LinkedIn's algorithm, it helps you. It boosts you up when you post more consistently, and keeps your content more visible. So the people that follow you and that are even connected to your followers are going to actually see your content the more consistent you are with it. And then one great time to post, I found out, is the weekdays, Monday through Friday, usually around 8 a.m. Central. It was a little bit after 8 a.m. earlier in the year, but for whatever reason, it's kind of gravitated more toward 8 a.m. That seems to be when I get the most engagement. So 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern is a great time to post. That seems to be when everybody is on their LinkedIn, starting their day, whether it be if they're at work on the East Coast or getting out of bed on the West Coast. 8 a.m. Central is a great time to post. And if you aren't up at 8 a.m. For whatever reason, Hootsuite is a great place that you can actually post your content and actually have it timed and scheduled to post on LinkedIn. What I would recommend though is as soon as possible after that gets posted, if you're not around at 8 a.m., as soon as possible, engage with those who have commented and liked your content, because there's a magic hour with LinkedIn. As you post something on LinkedIn in that first 1 to 2 hours, that's when LinkedIn decides whether or not they're going to keep it at the top of news feeds. So the more engagement it gets, the more comments, the more likes it gets, the more in that first 2 hours, the more likely you are to have that stay on LinkedIn for a while. So, all right, Katie, we'll go ahead into the next page.
Kristen, did we have any questions?
Yes, we do. Let's see. Oh, we had another couple ones come in, so let me scroll back up. Somebody asked, Andrew asked, how valuable are the skill assessment badges? Michael, any insight on those?
Say that one more time.
The skill assessment badges, are those valuable to have and add to your profile?
Yes, so I'm assuming if you're talking about like credentials and certifications, yes, those are always good to have on there. Just like a resume, anything of substance, anything of achievement that you can put on there, that's obviously going to help tremendously.
And then Terry asked if there are any tutoring opportunities for LinkedIn profiles. So she really loved your content. It sounds like. But do you have any other resources? Or Terry will definitely send this out afterwards, so you'll have all of the content on these slides. But anything else, Michael?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of some of the best things that I found. There's a LinkedIn playbook. There's actually a few people who create what you call LinkedIn playbooks. One of my favorites is from a fellow by the name of Justin Welsh, WELSH. But Justin Welsh created something called the LinkedIn Playbook, and it's a great resource. It does cost money, so I think I want to say it's 40 or 50 bucks for that. It's worth every penny, but it tells you just about everything you need to know to create your own brand on LinkedIn and utilize it to its fullest. There are some free options out there. So there are several content creators and thought leaders out there that just throughout their posts, they tell you a lot that you need to know about LinkedIn. Sarah Johnston is a good friend of mine, and she's one that is a well-known thought leader from North Carolina, and she posts pretty often, has a lot of helpful tools. Most of which are free or very inexpensive. She has a company called Briefcase Coach, as well as she has a startup with some other thought leaders called Job Search Secret Weapon. And so those are great resources that are inexpensive, and some of which are free to help with LinkedIn. And then one more great resource, there's a guy named Austin Belsack, Belcack is his last name. So he's a great thought leader as well. He just left Microsoft. He was kind of doing some career coaching and working for Microsoft, and now he's doing career coaching full time. So all his effort is being poured into that. But he has a website called Cultivated Career, I believe, or Cultivated Culture. Sorry, Cultivated Culture. Thank you. Perfect.com. And so that's a great resource for everyone to look at as well, with some great free tools, as well as some paid coaching on there as well. So those are three of my friends that I can talk about that are great LinkedIn tutors or coaches.
So we're getting a little close on time. I want to make sure we have a lot of opportunities for question and answer. So if for some reason there's a comment that you put into the chat that we don't catch, we will personally reach out to you and make sure that gets answered. We're going to download the chat when we get done. So I'm going to go through this and hit on some of the high points, but we will definitely send out the presentation. Cover letters. Long story short, cover letters can hurt you, I think, but they can also help you. Whenever it comes to cover letters, recruiters are pretty much torn on if they like them or if they don't. I like to get a more authentic glimpse into the person that's writing the cover letter, but at times it's just so time consuming to go through them completely. I think when it comes to cover letters, my biggest tip is be specific when you are applying for the job. Make sure your cover letter is customized to the position. Don't send out a generic one. I think that hurts more than it helps, because I'm like, oh, they probably sent this to other positions. It doesn't really tell me about why they are the perfect fit for this role. When it comes to cover letters, it is not just simply rehashing your resume. It is telling me why you would be a great fit for this role, how you can help the company, and really why you would add value. So I think tips where people get a little messed up on cover letters is sometimes people try to be funny in cover letters. I think a lot of times people try to stand out, and so they try to throw in a joke or try to overly communicate why they're so excited and overdo the flattery in cover letters. And I think it's really about selling yourself and selling, why you're fit for that role, rather than saying, oh my gosh, I just love this company so much. When you start off a cover letter, open strong. Michael had a friend who was applying for a job at Google and walked them through how Google has affected their life in so many different ways. And that's really unique. I mean, I Google things thousands of times a day, and it's so helpful to me. But trying to add that story, that human element to a cover letter really helps me to think of you as a person applying for a job, rather than just another name and another resume that's coming through. Use proofreading tools when you're going through the cover letter, for sure. I am queen of not proofreading, and so I definitely like to have a second set of eyes. Ashley is thumbsing up because we are both notorious for this. So definitely have somebody look over it. But really, if a cover letter is optional, don't feel like you have to submit one. But if it is required, make sure you're definitely customizing it and tailoring it to that specific job description. And then again, I'm sorry, we're moving fast. Where to apply. So there's tons of jobs boards out there, and that is great. Utilize those job boards. But if you see a job on a job board, please research that company website and also apply on their site. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times it will directly go to the recruiter. I know if you're applying through our site versus Indeed or LinkedIn or Glassdoor, I'm going to see the one on our site first, and it's going to be easier for me to contact you and set up the interview. It just makes things a lot smoother. And also, there's probably more information on the website itself, from the company site. Lesser known job boards, Chamber of Commerce. If you know you want to be in Northwest Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas has a great local NWA job site. They have a great Fayetteville one. Little Rock has a great Chamber of Commerce site. Lots of small towns have local jobs on there. The state of Arkansas actually just revamped their website for jobs. It's now arcareers.arkansas.gov, and it is very user-friendly, very easy to maneuver. And then artechjobs.com, there's over 100 jobs currently on there, and it's just tech IT jobs in the state of Arkansas. And so it is just a great resource. The people that run it are very friendly. So it's a great tool. I want to just quickly touch on some miscellaneous tips that we have for you. When applying for jobs, please use a professional email address. Don't use like a Star Wars character or something funny or silly. I know I've had email addresses from when I was, 13. Please use one that is your name, your full name, with numbers are fine if that has to happen. But please use a professional email address. Do your research on the job. So if you're applying with ACDS, the positions, they aren't necessarily with us. We help find companies that are looking for IT talent. And so when you apply with us, know that you're not applying specifically for ACDS. So some companies, if you're using a service or something, understand what you're applying for. Please read through the job descriptions. It really just helps to make sure that you have done your research. It shows the recruiter that you are knowledgeable about what you're getting yourself into. Look for news articles about the company. If you're wanting to go work at Hytrol up in Jonesboro, well, they just are building a brand new plant in Fort Smith and adding 250 jobs. And that's an amazing thing for you to mention when you're interviewing with them. And so if something cool comes up like that, make sure you're knowledgeable about the company. Utilize different research terms when looking for a particular position. So this is a little bit specific, but if you know that you want to go into working in help desk, it is called so many different things, y'all. Computer support technician, desktop support technician, help desk technician. It has like 500 names. So know that it may be the same job, but just titled something different somewhere else. And then my last little tip for you is familiarize yourself with expectations for the industry you're entering into. If you're wanting to be a cybersecurity analyst, know that you are going to have to go through a rigorous background check. I mean, be prepared. If you're wanting to be a developer, know that you've got to have a portfolio of your work. Create that GitHub account, work on some open source projects. Even if it's something small, if it's something freelance, like Michael suggested earlier, make sure you have something. I do want to go ahead and turn it over for questions. I know we have about 5 to 10 minutes left. So if anybody has anything pressing, we will definitely get to it in the chat afterwards, but we can address a few here now. Kristen, did you have anything?
Yeah, we've got a couple more. Somebody asked about really how much knowledge do you need to have for an entry-level IT job? How much HTML, CSS, JavaScript would you need? Or if you're looking into the security area, how much education or experience or whatever do you need? And then maybe we can cover how to market what you do have on your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a pretty loaded question. So I'm going to do my best to address it. And so Ashley, Kristen, Michael, feel free to jump in. So first and foremost, know enough to do your research on those positions. If you don't know where you want to be in IT, just start Googling, day in the life of a data analyst, day in the life of a developer, of a cybersecurity analyst. Try to understand where that passion area is for you. And we do host webinars similar to today, but where we go into depth about those different positions. And we say, if you are somebody that likes to be the protector, that likes to solve problems, that wants to keep everything secure, you're going to excel as a cybersecurity analyst. Now, specifically with ACDS, in the apprenticeship model, there is no formal education that is required. You don't have to have your master's or your bachelor's in cybersecurity. But what we do look for is we look for candidates that have a genuine, earnest interest into this field and have done their research to know, I may not have Python mastered or PowerShell, but I know about it. I've done my research. I've read up on it a bit. I may not have played with it. I may need some instruction, but I have a genuine interest. I think a lot of times when candidates actually get into the apprenticeship program, one of the things that we hear from the instructors is they don't necessarily have time for a million questions during class, but they love when those apprentices will go and research something during their break or during their own, and they're like, oh yes, I figured out this in PowerShell, or I figured out this in Python. I can teach myself this and do some extra work outside of that classroom component. Kristen, can you repeat the second part of that? Slipped my brain.
Well, that was pretty much it. I kind of added the second part, but yeah, what I was thinking was exactly where Katie was going. Just making sure that you market what you do know. and making sure that you're open and honest that you are entry level. There's not a threshold, it's not a you have to know these specific functions in this language and these specific things in this language, and you have to code this many lines this amount of time. It's nothing like that. So it's kind of a little bit different when we're specifically talking about how much do you know. And I think that's a really good question to ask, when you're applying to jobs or when you're talking to some recruiters or hiring managers. What are your expectations for this role? Glassdoor is a really cool resource, I think, for reading company reviews. And people will post, what questions that they were asked in interviews, or they'll post about the company culture. And a lot of times that stuff kind of can help you set expectations for what they may be expecting coming in. But remember that entry level means entry level. So they're not expecting you to be able to build a whole system or to be able to secure a whole entire, large company. It is what it says that it is. So give yourself that grace and remember that too. Let's see, another good one we have. Joe's pushing us on the numbers, Michael. So Joe says, if less than 1% of accounts on LinkedIn are active, how valuable is the platform?
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that comment. I should rephrase the way I put that. By active, I mean less than 1% are actively posting on LinkedIn. And so more than 1% obviously are engaged and watching it on a daily basis, but less than 1% are using it to its fullest and posting consistently. So that's kind of what I meant by that. The people that I mentioned in the links above, they have all made their careers largely off of LinkedIn. I know that, I know he's not tooting his own horn, but Justin Welsh, just from being on LinkedIn alone, makes 6 figures just from engaging on LinkedIn. So there's a great ROI on that. And so kind of what I meant on that is less than 1% are actively putting out content. So I would highly encourage you to do it as well.
Cool. So Richard said, no, it doesn't. I get entry-level positions that require 2 to 3 years of experience. So one of the things, Richard, that I think is super interesting about job postings is that, and I don't know statistics, but probably very rarely does the person that gets hired 100% meet the job description. So remember that, and don't feel like you have to meet 100% of the job posting to apply for it. If you have examples or you want to talk more offline about specifics of, getting into interviews and stuff like that. But my biggest tip there would be not to let one bullet on a resume that says 2 to 3 years of experience prevent you from applying to it if you feel like you've got the rest of it and it mentions that it's an entry-level job. All right, let's see.
I think that's all the time we have for right now. We're just kind of getting close, but if you have any last minute questions, we'll kind of hang around just to get them in the chat. That way we can download it. You can also reach out to us at talent@acds.co, not .com.co, and we will be happy to answer it. We will send this presentation out. There's 2 slides we didn't get to. It's got some great content on there, but we'll get it out to you. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone. It was a lot of fun.